Hello and welcome to an episode of I've been inspired by a TV show, is this going to work? I recently made some peanut butter and jelly cookies and I froze the jelly to put in the middle of the cookies. I noticed once they're frozen, they have like a kind of jammy consistency. So I've been thinking, oh, it'd be useful to try and harness that property. And then I was watching the Great British Bake Off and they made ice cream sandwiches. So my mind's kind of gone, oh, that might work. The cookie's gonna be based on the recipe that I used for the peanut butter and jelly ones. So gluten-free using chickpea flour again. For the jelly part, I'm gonna use a jar of marmalade so it has a nice orange flavour. And then for the creaminess, I'm going to use coconut cream and silken tofu. Now, it might sound weird to put tofu in a dessert, but it has a really kind of bland flavour, but it has got a really nice consistency to it, nice and creamy, but without being too fatty. We'll do the cookies first so they can get in and start baking. I'm going to try using a vegan margarine for this. I just think it would be useful to try. Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't. Maybe the water content will be higher. I don't know, we're going to find out. So we've got half a cup of butter, about 140 grams, half a cup of sugar. I've used brown and golden castor. Cream that together. If you want a kind of light and fluffy, well-mixed texture, that's what we're after. Push that to the side, do the dry separately. 1.5 cups of chickpea flour, 210 grams. I do strongly recommend sieving chickpea flour because it has got these massive lumps that can be really difficult to get back out again. For some lift, to get it to rise, I'm going to use half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, and I'll give this a very light mix, but I don't want to take out too much air, but just enough so it combines well. You'll hopefully be familiar with this by now, which is a flax egg. You can also do it with chia seeds, and that's 1 teaspoon of flax eggs ground down to give you 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds, and then 4 tablespoons of water. That just acts like an egg replacement. And then I'll pop in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract into that just for a bit of extra flavour. 2 tablespoons of ground ginger. Mix those together. Add the flax egg. Mix that together. Scrape the sides down a bit. I've got half a cup or about 70 grams of toasted almonds and hazelnuts. Give that a mix. When I did the other cookies, it went very dry and crumbly rather than like a dough. So I've got some plant milk. This is oat, you can use whatever. Just in case, I'll keep that to the side. Add the chickpea mixture, mix that together. The texture of it's quite loose and sticky, which I think might be the flax eggs. Yeah, maybe flax and chia have just got different hydration ratios. I'm going to leave it for 5 minutes and I'm hoping that the moisture that's in the eggs is going to be absorbed by the chickpea flour and hopefully swell up a little bit and firm. If not, we'll figure something out. If you use a different type of egg replacer and it is very dry and crumbly, just add some milk until it comes together. Do like 1 tablespoon at a time and it should come together in a nice dough. Preheat in the oven at 180 degrees C, about 350 Fahrenheit. And I'm going to set up 2 baking trays. The dough's had about 5-6 minutes, something like that. It's still a bit sticky. I think as long as we keep hands wet, it should be okay. Take in about that much, 1.5 tablespoons, something like that. Roll it together and then just sort of shape it into a round. Place it on the sheet and then you can do a bit more shaping on there. If you want a nice, soft, smooth top, you can just dab your finger in a bit of more water, smooth it over. So just repeat until you've emptied the bowl. All the cookies are rolled out. I've got 18 altogether. I've got 1 tray of all littler ones. And then I did 2 great big ones, partly to see what would happen and partly because I was running out of patience. I'm gonna pop these in for about 11-12 minutes, something like that. Cookies have had 12 minutes, let's pull them out. And look, we've got a Cleo. I know she has some fans amongst you. When I checked on them, they were fine in colour. So an extra minute, yeah, that does make all the difference. So keep an eye on it, pull them out as soon as they hit like 11 or 12 minutes. I'll let these cool for about an hour probably because I need them to be completely cold and solid so then they don't snap to bits when I try and smush them with ice cream. Onto the ice cream. The main 3 components are coconut cream, silken tofu, and marmalade. In terms of the tofu, it does need to be silken. I don't think it'll work with regular the stuff that you get in packages in the fridge. This is the stuff off the shelf. I opted for a fine shred Partly, I just didn't want big chunks of orange in there. Feel free to do whatever you want, but because I'm blending it, I just don't think there's any point in putting a larger shred in there. You could possibly do this by hand, but the tofu does need quite an aggressive blending to get it smooth. So yeah, but you can experiment with that. Never done this before, so it's very theoretical. This might not work at all. I've made vegan yogurt a couple of times, and one of the problems is it always sets really hard. So that's what kind of prompted this thought of, oh, maybe the marmalade, the pectin in there, maybe that will make it slightly less set. And then I'm also going to add in some triple sec. So this is an orange flavoured liqueur, and alcohol also stops it freezing out quite as solid. So, but you could use Cointreau or anything you like really. And you don't have to use marmalade. You could use any kind of flavoured jam. I bought a carton of coconut cream. If you can't get this, you could potentially take a can of coconut milk, put it in the fridge, and it'll separate. The coconut water will sink to the bottom, whereas the thicker, creamy stuff will rise to the top. You're then gonna have to scoop it out and leave that at room temperature so that it softens again, because it does go really, really thick and hard. And don't get creamed coconut, that's a different thing altogether. So look, it's coconut cream that you want. 1 carton coconut cream, 250 ml. Here's the silken tofu, that's what it looks like. So yeah, it's got this kind of jelly almost quality to it, like a bit gelatinous. 350 grams of silken tofu. That's the marmalade, so you can hopefully see that on camera. The shreds are very, very fine. 340 gram jar of marmalade, triple sec, about a tablespoon. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and that's just to kind of intensify the flavors that are in there. And then blend that together. I'm just going to scrape the sides of the blender down and then just give it another quick whiz. Oh, that's really good. I'm going to pop in some more orange zest, just to intensify it a little bit. I'm going to add a small pinch of nutritional yeast. I've used this when making like oat milk and stuff, and nut milks, and it just kind of knocks it into the dairy sort of flavour. I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon and then I'll taste it. Feel free to pop some sugar in there. I'm not going to, because for me that's sweet enough from just the jam. The coconut cream obviously is quite sweet as well. Doesn't taste at all of coconut, so don't worry. Give that a try now, it's got the nooch in there. Oh, that's ridiculous. I'm going to do the orange zest into here and just pulse it a couple of times. The ice cream maker I use has got like an insert that goes in the freezer. So I'm going to decant the liquid into a jug and put that in the fridge just to get it as cold as it can be, because everything's sort of room temperature at the moment. The insert starts defrosting quite quickly, and it is pretty warm in the kitchen as well. So I'm just going to do everything I can to maximize the amount of kind of ice cream making properties of this bowl. Decant the liquid into a jug. This mixture would actually work really well as a sauce. Could even heat it up. Oh yeah, maybe over some chocolate cake. Oh yeah. I'll pop this in the fridge. I'll keep it in for half an hour, thereabouts. The longer the better really, but I just want to get a move on. So here's the cookies. So I'll see you back in about half an hour or so, and we'll start churning the ice cream. The mixture's been chilling for about half an hour or so it's time to assemble the maker and then make some ice cream, hopefully. This is the unit I use. It's like a plastic outer, and that's the motor that you then put in the spoke. That's the liner, so it's like a plastic outside, metal inside, and then there's a liquid inside that then freezes. So you put that in. Then the beater goes in the middle, and then that goes on the top, and then just add the mixture in. Yeah, so it's just playing the waiting game now. The mixture's been churning for about 25 minutes or so, and as you can see, it's still very liquid. It is thickening, but I'm worried that the thing's going to defrost before it's thick enough. So I think I'm going to take some of it out, and I can always make the rest of it later, because there's a lot of mixture in there. So I'd maybe do it in state, like do half at a time, or half the amount of mixture from the get-go. It is definitely thickening. I just think it's going to be a bit too much for it to handle. What I might do is pour this half into a plastic tub and freeze that, and then whisk it every 20 minutes, half an hour. see what that does. So it does already look a bit thicker. So yeah, I think that was a good thing to do. I'll give it another 15 minutes and fingers crossed. The mixture's been chilling for another 20 minutes and it's still fairly liquid. It does look thicker, but it's still not where I'd hoped it would be. This is the one I did in the freezer though, and you can see it is freezing on the sides. So just give it a really good stir. So yeah, it definitely is thickening, but I think it's now too much of a fine line. This just isn't going to be cold enough to freeze what's inside. So if I shake it, that's the liquid melting. I'll just put the whole thing back in the freezer and then have to whisk it like every half an hour. Yeah, I'll just have to keep doing this until until it's done, which is going to be like, I don't know, midnight. At least the biscuits worked. The mixture's been in the freezer another 20 minutes. Let's have a look. It's solid. I'm going to get a whisk in there. Okay, yeah, so we're getting where we need to be. Make sure to get it all off the sides. I might try doing a cookie and see where we're at. I'm just worried that because it's still quite soft, it might just blart out the sides. Technical language. Interesting. So the other one that was in the tub, that's still very liquid. So I guess being inside that tub is definitely helping it. I think having blended the mixture is really going to help making the ice cream light rather than just a solid mass. Because if I did just a regular custard or even just cream, it freezes solid, but that's got lots of holes in it, so it keeps it kind of airy. I took a minute or so just to pair up the cookies so that they're roughly the same diameter, just for neatness really. I'm gonna dollop it on and then put that on, kind of, that's what I didn't want to happen. No, it's too soft. The ice cream is just way too soft. It needs to be much thicker so that it doesn't ooze. Otherwise it's just going to end up in a pool in the bottom of the bag. So I'll leave it another 20 minutes. Add another 20. So fingers crossed we're going to be at a good point. So that is much thicker than it was. I think I'm going to give it one last 20 minutes. It's almost there, but I want it to be a little bit more set. But it's definitely in the right direction. So the ice cream's had another 20 minutes and I'm hoping that's about done it because I really want to relax now. But I then remembered that someone gave me some vegan almond orange chocolate. So I'm going to chop this up and put it on the outside. Yum, yum, yum. So I've done probably 15 grams maybe, and I can always do a bit more. I've chosen a dish just because then it's easier to keep it into the middle, and then I'll just track it through like that. So the next step is for you to cross your fingers, your toes, arms, legs, everything. Yeah, that's looking really good. I think that's a pretty good texture to then be stuffing with. Moment of truth. So I'm going to get a spoonful of mixture and dollop it on. Oh goodness, that's still very soft. Splodge it down. I'm going to put this ice cream back in the freezer for 20 minutes because it just softens so quickly. I put a bit of the mixture into the freezer just to see, you know, what it was going to be like. So that's the set on it. Yeah, and it is a little bit soft. So that means the marmalade has done exactly what I hoped it would do. So I've got the first 5 back in the freezer freezing again, as well as the main mixture. So I'll do the rest of it after I've finished filming for the day, and it can just be done at leisure. I'm gonna have some dinner, let those, freeze for about another 30 minutes or so, just so then it's nice and hard like that was, because at least I know it has the potential. Dinner has been eaten, so it's now time for dessert. It's a little bit messy, with kind of ice cream all over it, but it doesn't look too bad actually. You could potentially even leave the ice cream overnight so it goes completely hard, and then it might be easier then to make it a bit neater, but it's going to taste amazing. Yeah, that's delicious. The ice cream is splurging out. If you bite into it, So yeah, maybe let the ice cream harden more overnight. That flavour combination is stunning. But the textures there are great. The biscuit's nice and crisp, and then the ice cream is very soft and smooth. There is a slight graininess to the ice cream. It's not as smooth and creamy as like a dairy ice cream would be. But I mean, the flavours are just incredible. And that chocolate, I'm so glad I had that idea. The sandwiches had about half hour, 45 minutes in the freezer. So I reckon overnight, that should set up really nicely and you won't get it won't melt as fast. If you didn't want to go to the hassle of doing it as a sandwich, just have scoops of ice cream and put some of the cookies in it, or even, you know, break the cookies down into smaller pieces. That might work as like a pie, a tart kind of thing. Either line the bottom of a cake tin with just a bit on the bottom of the cookie, bake it, or you could even try building like a full pastry case inside a tin, bake it, and then just put the ice cream on top and put it back in, and then just cut slices of it like that. That would also work. And you could maybe melt some chocolate and drizzle that on the top, and then the chocolate would harden and become like a crunchy, a bit of a shell on top. For more delicious recipes that don't involve cruelty or gluten, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon, have a look at this one.